Good morning, and thank you for joining us once again for KEDA's weekly webinar, COVID-19 and Your Business. Today, we are joined by Marit, Bockelie and Aljolynn Sperber, who are going to be sharing things about doing business in this new way. Just a reminder, as always, we have Monica Blackwood available to answer any workforce related questions. Any other questions, the whole panel will be happy to review, and if we need to follow up, we will. We're going to start, as always, with a few polls. So again, just kind of getting a gauge of who is with us today. What type of business or organization do you represent? Okay, and as is true from the last few weeks, professional services represents the largest portion. And then I have one more quick poll. Wait. Then the second poll is just trying to get a gauge in line with our topics today. What have you done during the stay-at-home period to support local business? And you may select more than one. Ordered food online and picked it up, gift certificates, made donations, utilized apps, or searched online for ways to support, or you found other ways to do that. So apparently we all like to eat something that we have not cooked ourselves, so that's a good thing. And then I like that the second one is we've made donations. I'll show you. So we have it's a pretty nice spread, but eating definitely wins. And then making donations to local businesses and charities is great to see as well. So now we are ready to invite Marit Bockelie, the owner and founder of Bremerton Letterpress, to make her presentation. Thank you again, Marit, for being willing to share your story.
Thanks, Kathy. It's so good to be here. Let's get my slides going here. All right. Well, again, it's Marit Bockelie, and I am the founder and owner of Bremerton Letterpress, located in downtown Bremerton. And I'm excited to share with you a little bit about how I've been pivoting my brick and mortar business during this crazy time. So the story I'm going to share with you is unfolding in real time, which is kind of hard to do storytelling in real time, but I wanted to see if anything that I'm experiencing and anything that I'm doing right now might be of interest or value to other businesses. So as a small business, I'm hoping at least some of the principles will apply to some of you who are on the call today. So a little bit about me. I'm a fourth generation Bremertonian, and my first career was in urban planning. So I'm deeply committed to the idea of place and revitalization. When the recession hit, I went back to school for business and graphic design and opened up this storefront that you see here in 2015. And that was kind of my way of joining a passion for letterpress with my hopes to help revitalize downtown. And then as of today, or I guess March 17th, what I had going on in this storefront was a full service print shop with retail offering greeting cards and gifts. I've hosted workshops and events, been a big part of the Bremerton First Friday, and founded an arts festival that happens right outside my shop. So when Corona hit, everything, obviously I had to close my shop, and I had very little going on online. I'd always wanted to have more of an online presence, but like many of you, I'm sure, just didn't feel like I had the capacity to put any energy into that. One thing I feel fortunate about is that I did have a Etsy shop set up. So I had some of my inventory online, but I, again, hadn't really invested anything in that area. So the big question after we were forced and also chose to close this storefront was what to do next. And one thing that comes really naturally to me is connecting, and you'll see how this is a theme in my story. And one thing I wanted to point out here, and just like my decision making on how to pivot, is that having a really kick-ass support system for the business has been crucial. So a lot of what I've done, and we'll find out if it's successful or not in the future, but a lot of the decisions I've been able to make are because of people who I had already been sharing what was going on in my business and looking for a mutual kind of support system, and anywhere and everywhere I could. So developing that community with my business, but also behind the scenes, is something I really recommend for everybody to do always. And I want to give a shout out to Vibe and also Small Shop Strategies right here for that. They create a lot of opportunities for people to find that kind of support. So for me, the question of how to pivot, first I needed to look at what problems I could solve with my business. I think problem solving is a huge part of pivoting a business. So I'm recommending, in kind of putting my story together and putting it out there for folks, is really taking a step back from the day-to-day grind of your business and looking for the real problems that your business can be solving. I think pivoting is more than just about how am I going to pay rent this month, although I totally get that. But I really believe that in order to survive all of this, we have to be looking at the bigger picture. So for me, problem number one was that I have inventory to move. So a closed storefront means everything. This is not so much to do with my printing services, but just the fact that I had inventory in my shop that was sitting there. Problem number two, I had customers who were looking for ways to support me. Not everybody lost their job during this pandemic, and even those who had, I think they still look for ways to support the businesses that they value. Then I guess a third problem, and this one is one that definitely came up in just talking through all of this with people in like late March and early April, and trying to find those connections with other business people, is a pretty obvious problem, is that we were all dealing with social isolation, and still most of us are. It's really taking a toll on people, and folks everywhere are looking for ways to connect with their loved ones so badly right now. So those are my three problems I was looking to solve with this pivot. And the next step, obviously, is coming up with a solution. So for me, this turned out to be, what am I pivoting towards? And it really, once I could get clear on this, it became kind of like my marching orders. It's like, finally, I know where I'm going in all of this. And I think a lot of you can relate to that feeling in March and April, and maybe even still now, to some degree. I still feel this way. It's like, what am I supposed to be doing right now with my business? So for number one, coming up with a solution on how to pivot was totally changing my mindset. And I think for a lot of brick and mortar storefronts, we have our ego and our love and our passion all tied up to this very physical on the ground entity, this like storefront. And I definitely was not open to shifting that prior to COVID-19 because I felt so attached. Then with limited time and resources, the other piece of finding a solution is what if I can just solve all of these problems at once instead of instead of letting myself feel overwhelmed by the fact that there are 3 big problems that I identified that I would like to solve. So I really identified with that idea of the Sphinx of like, is it possible that something good and maybe even beautiful could come out of this? I liked that idea, and it was very motivating for me because really what other options are there? So, and I really think as business owners, it's kind of our collective our collective responsibility in a way to try to come out of this better than we were before. Oops, wrong way. There we go. All right. So how are these problems connected? This is another piece of, I'm going to try to solve all of the problems that I've identified. There's got to be something common in there. And again, it was talking and sharing and being vulnerable with those I trusted that helped me come up with a solution. And the more I focused on it, the more a new focused brand started to develop. Not a brand, more of like a tagline started to come out of all of my conversations and thinking and writing. And so Bremerton Letterpress is in the business of connecting people through print. And once those words formed for me, I felt a complete sense of like ease and passion and motivation, and it just felt like something clicked, and that moving forward into an unknown was a lot less scary because I had that clarity that I didn't even have before all of this happened. So again, the key word is connection for me. So I have inventory greeting cards. This inventory can connect people. These are the supporters who are looking for ways to kind of help make sure Bremerton Letterpress survived. And snail mail is coronavirus friendly. we can all write letters and send them in the mail during this time of isolation. So the solution for me was greeting card subscription service. And again, it was pretty exciting to come up with that, where my business has always had a lot of different revenue streams. This one felt like it ticked a lot of boxes for what I wanted Bremerton Letterpress to be moving into the future. And so I'm only sharing this like process with all of you in the hopes that it could be helpful in terms of figuring out how your business or your project or whatever it is you're working on that has had the rug completely pulled out from underneath you might be able to pivot moving forward. So now what I wanted to basically get online. I started looking for a site, and there was a lot of options. And I read in the paper about Ashley's Pub. She mentioned that she had her Patreon site set up and was encouraging supporters to visit her there and just help her out by making small donations. And so that was pretty intriguing to me. I didn't understand how that worked. I was not really interested in doing something like a Kickstarter campaign for my business because that is more project specific. And this, I'm really looking for a long haul solution, not necessarily something permanent, but at least something that is not project based. So I had to learn more about Patreon, and I want to share a little bit about that with you today too. First of all, I really liked the idea of calling the people who are going to be subscribing to my service, not subscribers, but patrons. And that's obviously it's in their name, that that's the way they view and treat the people who subscribe. So Patreon is designed for creators who post regularly online so they can receive funding directly from their fans or patrons on a regular basis. So this is how they describe themselves. And traditionally, the site's used by podcasters, photographers, fine artists, graphic designers. Really, it's creative folks who are producing creative content and posting online. And so for me personally, I had to work through some mental gymnastics to design a subscription service on Patreon. And I think Aljolynn's going to go through some other options if you are interested in doing subscription services or other online businesses. There's a lot of other options that are more out of the box than this. So a little bit more about Patreon. Everybody asks first, how much does it cost? And basically the main tier is an 8% fee, and they handle all the payments. And if you want to pay a little more, you can get more support. And if you want to go down to the 5% fee, then it's a bare bones version. So that's also an option. So how does it work? Patrons sign up to support a specific artist. So if we're going to use like a podcast business as an example, a lot of times if you listen to small podcasts, you'll hear people say, visit my Patreon site and you can get access to more podcasts or content in general. So they'll refer people to Patreon. So you sign up to support a specific artist, and then they can choose a tier or like a level to support that artist at. And every artist or business that's on Patreon can, like me, design the tiers that work for them. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how I have set mine up, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the traditional setups. So for Bremerton Letterpress, I've started the Snail Mail Society, and these are a few of the different groupings of tiers that I've created within Patreon. For the Snail Mail Society, it's $28 a month, and you get 5 cards, including stamps, which has been a huge thing for people. With the Gratitude Guild, instead of generic blank all occasion cards, you get thank you notes. And then there's the Birthday Brigade for people who want to keep up on their birthday cards and never send a belated card again. And then at this level specifically, you can do a higher level and get more support, like specific reminders customized for you. So, and then what I especially love about what I'm going to be doing next after this initial launch is the small business support and nonprofit support. So I'll be doing customized mailings for people that are branded with their own logos, and help tailor the timing of their campaigns for either their clients or their donors. And then the Bremerton fan club, I just want to make a special note. This is more along the lines of what Patreon is built for, is microtransactions. So for $5 a month, you're just in the club, and anything I post on Patreon in the future, whether it's how-to videos or special access to merch or meetups, you're part of it. All right, so traditional Patreon benefits include something like exclusive access, early releases, sneak peeks, or like behind the scenes on what people are specifically working on, merch, film credits, or like studio tours. And I'm still learning how this all works. Like I said, this is in real time, but I do look forward at some point to reporting back, even if it's just to any of you who are on my email list, about how this is all working out. But 2 areas I'll be paying special attention to, and I encourage all of you to do too, is it worth it? And so far, yes, because Patreon does take care of a lot of the admin work that I just don't have time for right now. And they do have that legitimacy because they have been around for a little while. But I am, and I recommend this too, maybe Aljolynn, you can speak to this, I am backing up all of my data just in case in the future I have to pivot away from Patreon. I'll be able to take all of that with me. And then one big question I'm still working through is how to integrate what I'm doing on Patreon with everything else I'm doing with the business, without adding exponentially to the amount of work that I have to do. So integrating it with social media and my email marketing, and also trying to funnel people who are in that Bremerton fan club into a subscription and whatnot. So biggest lesson so far, and the main reason I think I'm here today, is just that online is a must do, I believe, for small businesses like mine. The new normal means it is essential to get online, and people aren't going to be going back to any kind of pre-corona situation in terms of being willing to stand in lines or wait for things. They want to be able to go online and be present with businesses and interact online, and I don't think that's going to change. Secondly, this one's a little more personal for me, but I believe having an online presence can make our businesses more sustainable and more human scale for us. And having an online revenue stream is making me more agile and flexible, and hopefully better able to handle circumstances out of my control, like we're dealing with right now. And then finally, there are so many customers waiting for you online. I keep having to remind myself that I am a hyper local. Again, I started this as an urban planner wanting to revitalize downtown. And so getting online is essential for keeping my business alive. And I think that still is helping the local economy, but there are a lot of customers out there who aren't here. So, all right, I think I'm way past my time. So I just want to say thank you, and use this time as a reminder to get something in the mail today. And feel free to contact me if you guys have any questions after the call.
Okay, there are some questions. Somebody said they love the idea to include stamps, so you're taking away that excuse. Joe would like to know your thoughts about doing business when phase 2 begins.
Well, I'm going to keep growing this online presence. In terms of whether or not I'll be opening the storefront, that I have not decided on. And I think a lot of us have to weigh what's allowed with what we're comfortable with. I have a high risk husband and a 7-month-old. So I think, you know, for those of us who can do more business online and do drop-offs and pickups, and I'm actually offering local delivery, it does make business work better in some ways. So we'll just see how we can combine those and heading into
okay, to see what the final rules are and all that good stuff. Let's see. Oh, and someone echoes you're online. They are actually working on a membership site for their stained glass fused glass shop.
Oh, that's Dixie. Hi, Dixie.
Oh, you knew. I'm not seeing any other questions, but people can keep adding them throughout and we'll follow up. So right now I'm going to do another poll. And this is, how are people finding your business? Google. They're using things like Yelp, TripAdvisor, targeted apps like Seamly, Grubhub, Drizzly, website, Etsy. You are using your mailing list, social media, or other. Okay. Interesting to me. So a lot of people are saying Google, which means if your SEO is not working, it's not so great. And for all those people who are putting other, could you post on chat what you're using as other so we can, you know, see what that is? Because other definitely won. So I'm nosy and I want to know what that is. And maybe Aljolynn has a better idea. Etsy, not popular at all. So it's whatever this other is. Oh, word of mouth referrals, of course. Social media. Okay, cool. All right, so now a repeat panelist for us, because we love her so much. Aljolynn Sperber is going to talk to us about how to, pivot online, not necessarily with Patreon, but what else we need to consider. Thank you. And you're on.
Thanks for having me. So I am Aljolynn Sperber, CEO and founder of Ladybox. I also do freelance marketing consulting. Anyway, so that's where my background in being able to recalibrate businesses and comes in. So we're going to talk about recalibrating your business for success. And it's going to be very high level because really you can only recalibrate your business based off of your own business. And that's something that really takes time to do internally. So I'll keep this very high level. And then at the end of the presentation, I make a special offer for anybody that wants a step into how to recalibrate their business. So before we get into this, I want people to remember that just because we are still in some phase of lockdown, it doesn't mean that your business has to be in lockdown. You can still make a pivot, do recalibration, you can make changes. And because changes can be scary, don't let that discomfort overwhelm you. Lean into that discomfort a little bit, write things down and understand why you're feeling uncomfortable, and then take the time to make the pivots. And you can do like very baby steps with these. So we're going to mainly talk about how to meet your customers where they are, automate your marketing, very, very high level on this. I'm going to talk about tools that you can use, and then determine if your business needs a subscription model. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but we'll go through those steps. And Marit actually went through some of them, the key questions that you need to ask yourself if you can and should do a subscription model. So let's talk about setting yourself up online. If you don't have a website, I do encourage you to have one set up. And there's tools out there that makes it easy to set up online. WordPress and Squarespace are great ones for B2B businesses if you need to set something up on your own. Maybe you're a solopreneur or you're a smaller firm and you need to get online. WordPress and Squarespace are a great way to do it. They walk you through the steps on what to do. The user interface in the background is very easy and simple to follow. You'll see here Wix and Gumroad are in the middle between B2B and B2C. So Wix and Gumroad are in the middle for a reason because you can use them for both. Wix is super easy to set up for a B2B, like maybe you have professional services, you have a marketing agency, you have an accounting agency or firm. And then Gumroad is a great one to use if you are creative. So pretty similar to Patreon. And then for B2C, I was going to give an example of who uses Gumroad. Libro FM, who's a member of Vibe Coworks, they use Gumroad and they love it. So if you have something where you can have a subscription base and you have a creative component to it, Gumroad is a good one to use. B2C, e-commerce platforms, Lightspeed. So if you were already set up on Square and you had a brick and mortar shop, maybe in downtown Paulsboro or Bremerton, Lightspeed is a great one to use. It's already integrated with Square. I know the downtown shop Flicka uses Lightspeed because it's already integrated with that. Shopify and WooCommerce are the most popular e-commerce platforms to use. They're, again, super easy to utilize and follow. Shopify actually, when you set up, they say, take these steps. And it's 1, 2, 3. So very easy to follow. So figure out which platform is going to be the best for you to use. All of these have some kind of analytics in the back end, which is going to be very important for you to have. So you know if your company is generating revenue, what kind of traffic you're getting to your website, how long is the traffic staying on your website, where are they going on your website. So having those analytics is important, and all of these provide that. And I see questions coming in or comments, and we'll get to those at the end. All right, so let's talk about which CRM, customer relationship management platform, is best for your business. So customer relationship management, that's part of the automation part of things. So it's important to have this so that you can track where your customers or clients are coming from and what kind of behaviors or activities they're doing to engage with your company. There's really popular ones like Salesforce and HubSpot and Klaviyo. HubSpot is awesome for B2B types of businesses. So if you have professional services, that's a great one to utilize. They have a free or freemium version that you can use. And what you want to use these for is setting up a way to capture contact information from people visiting your website, because it's different from people going to your office or going to your store. You have that face-to-face interaction where you can collect some kind of information. But with a website, that's still a storefront. So you need a way to capture contact information in a way. So HubSpot, Salesforce, and Klaviyo make it easy to do that. The other e-commerce sites that I mentioned before, they also do that too. HubSpot and Salesforce also make it easier for B2B service businesses to qualify the leads that you have come in. So then that way you can, have it set to cold leads, or, people that could sign on in the next 6 months, or, hot leads can sign on in the next 30 days. You want to have some kind of CRM platform that can help you manage that and automate things. And I'll get into that a little deeper in a second. Klaviyo, this is a little bit more advanced for e-commerce, but it's going to be so helpful in scoring the customers that come in. And that's kind of a weird term to use, scoring. But you want to be able to give certain customers a score because of the lifetime value that they can create. Because if they have a lot higher lifetime value, they're more likely to come back and they're spending more money with you, and they are going to spread the word about your business. So the more tailored that you can get with anything that you provide people in terms of content, the higher propensity that they're going to have to come back to you and spend money with you. What if I need a CRM Lite? Because all those big Salesforce and HubSpot and Klaviyo sound very overwhelming. That's totally normal. If you can't have somebody that has experience in marketing or setting up automation help you with that, there's a CRM Lite version that you can utilize. And that's even just using Shopify's automation that gets set up. Squarespace has options to set up automation in some kind of CRM. So that's a helpful way. MailChimp, if you are using MailChimp, you can set up automation that way. You can capture email addresses, even phone numbers. You can set up a welcome email for people, and a whole drip campaign and welcome series and automation series to engage your customers. And again, these tools will walk you through that whole setup. And for the most part, their chat function for customer service is very helpful. You can track old school on paper or on an Excel doc. You can still do that. It's not as efficient as a customer relationship management platform, but you can still do that and it can still work and benefit you. Just do what's gonna feel the most comfortable, but still push you outside of your comfort zone so that you can be where your customers are and that you can tailor any content that you deliver to them based off of them. Why do I even need this? So we know about the sales funnel. That's why you need a CRM platform and automation. You need a way to make it so that people can find out about you, discover you, look through your website and figure out what they want to buy from you. And then all the way down to loyalty. Loyalty, because you have, the majority of you business owners have such loyal customers, a loyal customer base, they want to help you. So if you can set up a customer relationship with them using online tools, they're going to have a high propensity to come back to you and even promote your business even more. How do I meet my customers where they're already at? Online, especially. You may be used to having your office and your storefront, your physical location. So now you have to figure out a way to meet them where they're at right now. The majority of people right now are on social media. I think there was like an 80% lift in engagement on Facebook and Instagram alone. And if any of you have teenagers in your house, you've probably been seeing them post a lot on TikTok lately. So you just figure out where your customers are right now. Are they on LinkedIn right now? Are they on Reddit? Are they listening to podcasts? If they're listening to podcasts and the radio, find an opportunity to introduce yourself to those podcast hosts or producers and connect with them on a story that you can share with their audience so that you can reach your customers that way. Video is a great way. Google loves videos. If you've heard anything about Google search algorithms, they favor videos highly. So if you have a YouTube account or you don't, set one up. It's super free, and start posting some videos. They don't have to be highly produced. And if you have older videos, you can upload those, add some keywords on there that can help people find you, like your brand name, what you do, and where they can find you online, www.yourbusiness.com. And that's going to be a great way for people to find you online. You can also do digital marketing ads like Google Ads, but that's kind of getting into the weeds. But those are some options of being able to find where your customers are and meet them there. Don't expect them to just find you willy-nilly. You need to meet them where they're at. If that's on social media, if that's on podcasts, if that's on TV, find ways. There's some easy ways to find them. Social media is going to be the easiest one. That's where a lot of people are engaged right now. So, should I set up a subscription model for my business? Here are some questions to ask yourself. Do you have a product that can be replenished on a regular basis, like toothbrush, period products, household cleaners? Can your product be offered as a kit? Do you have content or service that can be purchased on a recurring basis? So think of like an accountant, or is there anything that you can fit into some kind of recurring business model to help you have that revenue stream? If you can, set it up. There's different tools that you can use, like Bold Commerce can help you integrate into Shopify. If you have a physical product to sell, that can be as a part of your subscription. And then other apps and tools that I'm not as familiar with for online subscriptions, like services, but there are tools out there for that. Then here's a recalibration checklist. I don't know that I have enough time to go through this full thing, but it will be available online after the webinar. But here are some questions to ask yourself, and then even figuring out how to recalibrate. Ask your customers where they're at, what they need, and recalibrate based off of that. Don't recalibrate just based off of what you think it should be. You need to ask your customers. And then list out what's working for you, and then scrap anything that's not. Identify tools that are going to be helpful for you in recalibrating. And then the most important one, well, the second most important one, the most important one is asking customers what they need. The second one is coming up with a 30, 60, 90-day plan. You can't roll everything out in a week or 2 weeks even. You need a 90-day plan at least to be able to really recalibrate your business. But you need to take actions right now to start that recalibration. And having the right people on your team to help you with that is very key too. Assign the roles based off of people's strengths and skill sets. I know this is, having to go online for some people is something new, but push yourself and just lean into that discomfort and do it. Marit did it and she's doing a great job with it. I'm super excited for her, and many other businesses have been doing it since we've had to be on lockdown and quarantine, and it's been great to see. One example is that Indigo Plum, last night, they usually have their annual girls' night out in person, and they weren't going to do anything, but then they shifted to, I'll just make it virtual. And then they still had revenue come in. So there's an opportunity if you can look for it. So if you would like to connect with me for a free 30-minute consultation on how to recalibrate, you can email me. That's an offer that I'm making right now. And we'll make it help you make sure that it's best fit to your client and customers. And that's all.
Okay. So there is a question. Somebody asked, what platform is best for being able to capture all touches and copies of materials sent to potential clients?
I favor HubSpot on that one, but just base it off of, I wouldn't be able to really answer that not knowing your full business, but HubSpot is my favorite.
Okay.
I used to use it at my old marketing agency.
Okay. And you touched on analytics a bit with the CRMs, and all the social media platforms have analytics as well. Is there something in particular you look for when you're reviewing those?
It's entirely based off of the business's goals and model. So if, for example, a marketing agency, I looked at how people were finding us outside of, referrals and word of mouth, and what services that they seemed the most interested in. For my own business right now, for Ladybox, I look at how people are finding me, how long they're staying as subscribers, what the average order value is. There's tons of metrics that I take a look at and KPIs that I stick to and follow, but it's entirely based off of your business model and your goals.
So they definitely need to have all those pieces in place before they just start throwing things out there.
Yeah, the three key questions always to ask yourself as a business owner or operator: where am I at? Where do I need to be? How am I going to get there?
Super.
And then strategize from there.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions I'm not seeing any more. Monica, can you give us a quick update on what's happening in the world of workforce?
Wow. Okay, let me turn my video on. What's happening in the world of workforce? Well, the governor, of course, has his 4-phase plan for us to reopen, and so businesses are really starting to look forward and figuring out how they want to reopen. I think Marit touched on that a little bit about, when you can versus how comfortable as a business owner you feel in doing that, regardless of the governor's timeline. So there's quite a few aspects of that to take into account. The governor also issued some guidance on high-risk employees. So when you start opening your business again and you start bringing people back, there's some protections in place for high-risk employees. That doesn't mean that if you live with a high-risk person that you're covered by those provisions, because you're not. It's only if you actually have aspects that are covered as a high-risk employee. So I'm going to be researching into that and digging a little bit more, talking about it next week on a couple of things as well. But that's kind of stuff that's coming down the pike.
Okay, and Monica, are you posting all this info regularly on your website?
Fairly regularly. I just, yesterday we posted up a little write-up I did about burnout, because the day before in the afternoon, I pretty much just kind of lost it and was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And so I had to get all of that emotion out. And for me, it's in the form of writing. And so I wrote up a thing about work from home burnout, which really does exist. So that's up there now. And then, yeah, we do post up things roughly once a week that I come up with.
Oh, Teresa just posted, we heard from one of our partners and clients, Mike Hamilton, who founded CI Security. And apparently there are an increasing number of reports being filed regarding fraudulent unemployment insurance claims using other people's Social Security data. Have you tracked that much?
Well, so something that I've started hearing as well. I am part of kind of a CEO roundtable of staffing organizations across the country, and we're starting to see that as well with respect to fraudulent claims like Mike was talking about in his email, where somebody files a claim. It's more along the lines of identity theft, where they file a claim using somebody else's information, as opposed to fraudulent unemployment claims where the person that's claiming the unemployment actually was eligible for a job, was offered a job, and all of that sort of stuff. So there's kind of two separate fraudulent claim aspects to think about. And staffing organizations across the country are starting to see upticks in both categories, actually.
Well, there's some fun stuff ahead then.
Right.
And I have to say, I love your honesty about the burnout and how we all need to figure out how to, deal with it.
Sure. I think I drove my family pretty darn crazy.
Somebody did ask, a lot of businesses are asking where they can get masks and other PPE. I know that the chambers have been working on that, and Kathleen, I'm going to ask you to talk about that.
Just jumping in, the Department of Emergency Management, I believe, is also kind of working on that as well, in conjunction with some efforts of our elected officials. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, there's a group called Bainbridge Prepared that is involved. But Kathleen, do you want to talk about what your group is working on?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so actually right now we are working on preparing a toolkit. And at this point, we're working on getting all of our chambers together to help businesses as we begin to open, so that they're going to know exactly what they're needing for their personal protection equipment. And we're actually learning right now, and we're trying to get together with all the different resources so we're not duplicating, but we're all actually working together as one. That's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Let's see. Fearless in Training just sent out a great article about self-care, and coincidentally, Madeline Pratt will be one of our panelists next week, along with Anna Choi. Teresa has that on the web, on the screen now, and we're going to be talking about surviving or thriving. We're trying to help companies, as we go through this, all the pivots and changes and opportunities that are out there, but we also need to be healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally as we continue down this path, because none of us have been here before. So I am so thankful that there are so many people in our community that have this knowledge and are willing to share with us. So I just want to thank all the panelists today and in the past and future who are sharing their info. We are feeling very blessed and very lucky to have these folks in our community willing to share. Let's see, do we have any other questions? I am not opposed to being done before 11. I don't like making meetings go longer than they need to. Any last words? Monica, Aljolynn? Oh, Teresa, yes, we have one last poll. Oh, and I have a spelling. Has your business been impacted by COVID? Last week we asked about people personally. Now we're asking about your business. So it looks like right now it's kind of going between directly and somewhat. And oh yeah, so most of the people watching today have had some impact, either directly or somewhat. Okay. Thanks again, Marit, Monica, Aljolynn. Any last words?
Yeah.
Stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I guess my last word would be to stay connected as much as you can.
Awesome. Yes, send those cards. All right, thanks everyone. We appreciate you spending this hour with us. And again, you can find this on the website later, and you can always find all COVID related resources that we have found or have access to on our COVID page as well. Thank you and stay healthy.